Hi everyone, and welcome back to Bonnie Astrology. Today I am talking about the astrological significance of eclipse season. Eclipse season in astrology tends to coincide with huge fated and destined events or changes, so it tends to impact us quite significantly. And depending on various factors of your personal birth chart or the type of eclipses that are occurring, this can manifest very differently, and in this video I'm going to explain how. As always, if you do enjoy this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up to let me know that you like it. You can also subscribe to the channel for regular astrology content. All of my socials are listed below, and if you want to contact me for an astrological service, the description box is where you will find me. So let's look at eclipse season. So a few facts about eclipse season and how it plays out astrologically. Firstly, when eclipse season rolls around, you tend to feel the effects of it roughly a month prior to the first eclipse and a month after the second eclipse. Eclipses arrive in pairs, and we will have a solar eclipse and a lunar eclipse in a particular eclipse season, and we tend to have 2 eclipse seasons a year. Sometimes, and it's quite rare, we can see 3 eclipses in a row. We would have seen that last time in 2020. So as you can see, they do tend to coincide with very rare fated events in the world. But yes, eclipses arrive in pairs. Now, we will have a solar eclipse and a lunar eclipse in any given eclipse season. A solar eclipse coincides with a new moon, and a lunar eclipse coincides with a full moon. And eclipses are regarded as new moons and full moons on steroids, meaning that you feel them more intensely. And if you're already quite sensitive to the effects of a new or a full moon, particularly a full moon, you may notice that you really feel eclipse season when it rolls around. Things feel like they are in destiny's hands when eclipse season rolls around, and we can feel that energetically. If we look back to, the beginning of mankind, people would have regarded eclipses with great fear because they would have felt that we were losing the sun. They would have felt like everything was changing, and it could have been seen as a time of doom and gloom. And so people do tend to feel quite anxious around eclipse season because they are sensitive to the fact that change is taking place. Now, the pairs that eclipses arrive in are opposite. They are in the opposite signs. So for example, the year that I'm filming this, we have a solar eclipse in Aries and a lunar eclipse in Libra, opposite signs. And that axis is emphasized at the time of the eclipse, and it corresponds typically with where the north node and the south node are, or where they are about to be, or where they have just left. Eclipses coincide with the nodes of the moon, which is why they tend to be very destined, because those do tend to play out in very significant themes for us collectively. So for example, where we have a solar eclipse in Aries, as I'm filming this, it is bringing up matters of conflict and war. And if that were to fall in your birth chart in the 3rd house, this would bring up themes of siblings and your neighborhood. So it brings out themes collectively, but it also brings out themes personally, depending on where the eclipses are falling in your chart. The family of signs that an eclipse does come in, it tends to come around every 7 to 8 years, and it lasts as a cycle about every 18 to 24 months. Those are the times where that theme is most significant. And you will find, if you look back 7 to 8 years of any eclipse season, similar themes may have been playing out, though slightly reversed, as the nodal axis will be different. So who is most affected by eclipses? This is the most important question, because eclipses, where they are happening at the same degree as an angle or a planet in your birth chart, or even sometimes your progress chart, tend to manifest rather significantly. It is a clear sign that the destined events happening at that time you will probably remember for the rest of your life, or there is significance in your storyline that feels like an act of God, so to speak. It feels like fate, it feels like destiny. So if you have an eclipse coming up at 10 degrees of Taurus and your sun is at 10 degrees of Taurus, the likelihood is the eclipse will be falling on your birthday. If an eclipse does fall on your birthday, you may find that it is a very significant destined year for you, and one where you may want to guard your health in particular. It tends to bring about health and physical changes when an eclipse occurs on your birthday, or very fated events in that calendar year, as it will be in your solar return. But if it happens on your ascendant, for example, so there was a solar eclipse in 2023 at 29 degrees of Aries. Anyone who had an angle at 29 degrees of Aries, particularly the ascendant, may have noticed significant destined events. So one person, for example, I know that had their ascendant at 29 degrees of Aries and the solar eclipse fell on their ascendant, within a month they realized they were pregnant for the first time in their life. So that is the type of destined event that can happen. As you can see how that played out, the ascendant is the physical body. Solar eclipses are new beginning, pregnancy in that person's case, and also, as it's in the sign of Aries, the first pregnancy in that person's life. So make sure when you see an eclipse coming up, you check it in line with your chart, particularly the sun, moon, and the ascendant. But you will notice if it hits another planet in your chart, the themes of that planet and where it's placed in your chart will be very significant for your eclipse season. So for example, if it's happening on your Venus, love and relationships are emphasized. If it is happening on your Jupiter, something very lucky or over the top may happen as well. So those are the people that are most affected. Now, if it is happening, if it is not affecting your chart directly, you may notice that you are a witness to the significant events in other people's lives. Another person's eclipse story may be playing out right in front of you that's not necessarily affecting you directly. So a solar eclipse is when the moon is between the sun and the earth, and a solar eclipse coincides with a new moon. So it is a new moon on steroids. These tend to bring about new, fresh beginnings, new opportunities, new characters in your storyline, or a completely new storyline altogether. This can bring a new job, it can bring a pregnancy, it can bring a change in home. It tends to coincide with something completely new and something completely fresh. It tends to be a time where we have something present itself to us, and it can accelerate our timeline. So say, for example, you decided that you wanted to have a child in your 30s, but you find yourself under an eclipse actually pregnant at 25. That can be how this plays out. It accelerates a plan that we may already have had, whether we're ready for it or not. It tends to emphasize something new, a new opportunity, and it usually coincides with a big change. It usually coincides with something that we really feel is very novel, is very original, something that we're really beginning for the first time. And a solar eclipse also emphasizes the Leo part of your chart, as a solar eclipse is associated with the sun. The sun rules Leo. So when a solar eclipse comes around, you should always check the Leo part of your chart as having some sort of role in this new beginning. So for example, if you are a Pisces rising, Leo rules your 6th house in the whole sign system. And you may notice that eclipse season tends to coincide with changes in your workplace or the people that you work with. You may also notice, as it is a solar eclipse, that men in your life either come in, they enter your life, or they exit your life under the time of solar eclipses. And it may also bring up themes of authority and leadership. So on the world stage, a solar eclipse tends to coincide with a new leader, change of leader, and things like that, particularly men. And with a solar eclipse, it does coincide with a new moon, and it emphasizes the opportunity to begin something new. New moons are where we set intentions, and while you can set intentions on an eclipse, it is worth noting that destiny tends to be deciding something for you, rather than you necessarily having too much control in what is happening. Now, a lunar eclipse is when Earth is between the moon and the sun, and this coincides with a full moon. And these ones tend to feel exceptionally emotional because it is a full moon on steroids. And full moons bring peak experience. They bring a lot of emotions. They can bring endings, and they can also bring manifestations. So lunar eclipses can coincide with endings in our lives, the ending of a relationship, the ending of a cycle, the ending of a job, the ending of a particular chapter, to make way for something new. And they can feel exceptionally emotional. They can feel emotionally charged. Your emotions are heightened. And you may also notice that the Cancer part of your chart is experiencing some change when there's a lunar eclipse coming up. Themes in the Cancerian part of your chart. So if you are a Capricorn rising, lunar eclipses can coincide with changes to your relationship status or your partner's life. Lunar eclipses also tend to bring women in and out of our lives as well, and they can also bring family and home matters to a head. And they can also be times of big exposure. So there can be significant secrets come out with a full moon that can sometimes eclipse people out of our lives. And they can also coincide with breakthroughs in order perhaps to get us out of a cycle or out of a chapter that the time has expired on and it's time to go. So how do eclipses actually manifest? Well, eclipses tend to coincide with life's big events, whether that is meeting your soulmate by chance on a train, whether that is you're getting engaged, whether you get married, whether you get divorced, whether you go through a breakup that changes the trajectory of your life, you go through a significant job change, you leave an industry you've been in for 20 years for something new. It tends to coincide with monumental events, so births, deaths, big changes, turning points, things that you will remember in life, the big moments. And it does emphasize the idea of cycle changes, endings and beginnings. And it can also feel as if we are being fast-tracked to our destiny. It accelerates something that maybe you have been dragging your feet on, or something you have been unwilling to change, the relationship you were staying in because it felt familiar but you truthfully wanted out of. It can be the friendship that was never really that solid for you, where things were happening behind your back that you felt but you didn't see. They accidentally send you a text message that outs themselves. It can be that kind of a thing that happens around an eclipse. It just accelerates us to the inevitable, basically. And it can also bring about surprises and changes that you didn't expect. Eclipses tend to be wild cards in astrology, so we don't always foresee what they will be. We can try and intuit it depending on where they fall in your chart, where the moon rules in your chart, where the sun rules in your chart. But at the end of the day, a lot of the time, these changes are not meant to be seen, although intuitively you may have an idea of what is actually going to be occurring. So how do you handle eclipse season? This is a time to surrender and let go to fate, let go to destiny. You can choose during an eclipse season how you respond rather than how you make changes, how you initiate. This is more a time of being responsive. This is more of a time to reflect and choose your reactions. It's not a time to act recklessly from an emotional or anxious point of view. It is rather a time to observe the changes unfolding and choose to react in a way that you feel is best for you. This is a great time to ground yourself, to be in nature more. It's a great time to get off your phone, to be present, because it can feel very anxiety inducing at times, the unfamiliar, the uncertainty. But it tends to be with eclipse season that the universe is usually presenting us with some sort of signs. You may notice songs playing on the radio where you feel like there may be some sort of a message in it for you. You may notice you're seeing the same animal synchronicity over and over again. Or you may be having very unusual dreams in eclipse season that perhaps are telling you what you need to do or where you need to go, or who is going to be a key player in your eclipse story. And finally, with eclipse season, do watch for an eclipse hangover. They are very real. You can feel after an eclipse that you have been out on a night drinking where you were not. I don't tend to recommend drinking during eclipse season because it can feel worse. You can do silly things. You may also find that people are acting in a way that is quite erratic or unusual under eclipse season, so it's best to take the best care of yourself as you possibly can. But an eclipse hangover can be headaches, nausea, just feeling uneasy, finding you very unusual dreams, sleep changes, sleep problems. And it's a brilliant season to meditate and to be calm and to be present. And those sound like very overused advice, but with an eclipse season, because you're letting fate take the wheel, it is best to embrace as much self-care as possible and to approach them from as calm and centered a place as possible, so that you are responding and reacting in ways that will not be to your detriment during eclipse season. Because as I say, we cannot control everyone around us. We cannot control the world. We cannot control our lives completely, and eclipses come around to remind us of that. But we can absolutely choose how we respond. So that is eclipse season in a nutshell, what it means astrologically. I hope this video was helpful. I wish you well, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.